Good afternoon, Thistle fans, and welcome to the very latest In Lockdown With interview. We've had many a popular player feature over recent months, and we've got another cracker today. I'm joined by a player who served us 2001 to 2003. I think when I was thinking back on his time with the club, it just put a smile on my face, so I expect the next half an hour will be the same. It's James McKinstry, or AKA Banjo. What do I call you today, James?
Banjo's fine.
Banjo's good. How are you doing?
Great, thank you. How are you?
Very well, thanks. Very well. Thanks for taking the time out today. Especially, I understand you've had some good news recently.
I had a wee boy. My fourth child was born on Saturday, just past there. So it's his week birthday tomorrow.
Wow.
Wee Hugo. So he's doing well, and hopefully you'll not be hearing him anytime soon. He's sleeping in there at the moment.
We've got you half an hour out of it. Let's go through the essentials then. Weight and how's mum?
Mum's great, and he was 8 pounds 8 ounces. So he was a bit of a bruiser.
A bruiser, brilliant. Well, congratulations from
Thank you
at Firhill. Talking about youngsters, we'll start in quite a surprising place. It was certainly a surprise to me when Stuart Deans told me about this earlier, but I think the first time you set feet on a Thistle pitch was actually in 1987. Do you remember it?
Vaguely. I was the mascot for a Partick Thistle match against Kilmarnock, and unfortunately I didn't bring them much luck. I think they were beaten, and the next day the manager was sacked. Wow. So that's a bit of a blow.
I'm sure I'll be put right. I'm thinking that might have been Derek Johnson's time, but we went through a few managers around that period. But so you were clearly, a local boy to Firhill.
I wasn't actually. I was brought up in the Gorbals. What happened was my uncle, my auntie and uncle, they stayed in England, just along from Partick, and he was a Partick Thistle fan, and he'd been going along to see Partick Thistle all these days, and he asked if I would like to go, and I kind of jumped at the chance. And that's how that came about. It was a rearranged game. The first game was meant to have been a Saturday, but I think it must have been frosty weather or snowy weather. But in the night game, I can remember it being absolutely freezing, and just trying to kick this biggest, hardest ball that I can remember with the captain at the time. It was surreal to think back about it.
It's an amazing fact, and it's amazing how things work out that you ended up playing as a professional footballer there. So happy days. What was your you clearly came from Clydebank. What was your journey as a young footballer like, and what was the experience at Clydebank like for you in preparation for life at Thistle?
Well, as a youngster, it was relatively kind of basic. I played boys club football till I was 16, and then the boys club, they didn't go any further. And because of when I was born, I'm a July birth, so I don't know if you can remember, but the kind of player registrations used to go from August to August for some reason. Yeah. So I was always kind of the youngest in the team, been born in July. So after that, I'd kind of been playing with boys who were older than me, pretty much from the age of 7 years old. And then Clydebank under 18s, I get in contact with them, and I kind of went along for a trial, played well, and I played a whole season with them. And then after that, Ipswich Town came in for me. So I went to Ipswich, and I lasted the best part of 5 months. But oh my goodness, that was a tough shift because I was just homesick. That was hard. Looking back, my experience in Ipswich, it was absolutely beautiful. I was 16 years old, staying in the countryside in a big house. But when you're 16, you're looking for something else, and the countryside didn't really cut it for me. So I really did. I got homesick pretty quickly. Came back up the road, and then I signed for Clydebank, and I was there right up till I joined Partick Thistle.
Yeah, Clydebank's just a little bit easier to get to, Ipswich is quite a trek.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, Clydebank, you played loads and loads of football there. Were you, remind me at that point when you were developing as a footballer and playing at Clydebank, right back all the time, were you? Or?
Well, I think the kind of mid to late 90s, the kind of fad was wing back. So I played either right wing back or sometimes in the left wing back role, and that was probably my position. And funnily enough, in the season before I signed for Partick Thistle, John Lambie tried to sign me just after Christmas time. When the two of us were playing the same division. That was the year that Partick Thistle won the second division. Yeah. Clydebank knocked back the money, and then I ended up going at the end of the season for free. So yeah, that's what happened.
Aye. So clearly you knew about the interest for a while. No, did you want to join earlier? Would you have joined earlier?
I would have jumped at the chance. Clydebank was a great wee club, and I really felt for a lot of good people down there when they got a raw deal, the fans. The whole trying to move the club to Dublin, and then they get left in the lurch, and it went from kind of administration, and they were just bobbling along, trying to keep their head above water, and the fans were doing their best. And thankfully, now it was when they're kind of excelling again in the junior league, and maybe they'll come back up to join the top leagues. At the time, I was only part-time, but it was still a kind of there was a bit of turmoil. There was a few agents involved with the club, and there was a lot of players coming in and out. So I would have been. I was really keen to go. I actually didn't find out Thistle had wanted to sign me until later on, towards March, when my contract was ending with Clydebank. But yeah, I would have been chuffed to join Thistle, because it was clear that they were the real deal in the second division. They were going to cruise to the second division championship. So yeah, an opportunity to play in the first division would have been great.
And again, the Thistle story goes full circle there, because you would have played under Ian McCall. He
was my manager. He wasn't my first manager. First manager was Brian Wright. I was part-time, and then Ian McCall came in, and again, he'd just finished his playing career. An excellent manager, really knows the game, highly intellectual as well, which
we'll edit that out.
No, fair enough. But that's he's a clever guy. The way he comes across, he could be really harsh as well. By the way, he used to really give me a hard time at times, but within minutes he would make you feel 10 foot tall. And that was, you highly motivated to do well. A lot of I didn't know him as a player. A lot of the other kind of older players were really surprised that he was manager material, but he's certainly excelled in that role. So yeah, he was my first manager, my second manager at Clydebank.
I'm looking at Clydebank managers just as we speak. I see Brian Wright, I see Davy Irons, I see Ian McCall, and all with big connections to Thistle. So loads and loads of red and yellow flowing through your career before you even got to Firhill. But John Lambie clearly made it clear that he wanted you, and that must be a big part of wanting to sign as well, knowing that the manager really does want you.
It is, and I can remember the first time I met him in his office. He phoned me up. He's come up and see me. I thought, right, okay, here I go. So up I went, and back then with the turmoil at Clydebank, there was issues with registrations, so they hadn't sent me a kind of recorded delivery letter so that they could withhold my registration. So basically, I became a free agent despite being under the kind of 24 age, I think it was, of a Bosman at that time. But anyway, he phoned me up, and I walked into his office, and he spoke about those for 10 minutes. Spoke about pigeons for 10 minutes, spoke about how he raced pigeons and blah, blah, blah. So his cigar, there was a layer of smoke just below the ceiling. And then at the end, it said, right, do you want to sign? And I'd been prepped to say, look, don't sign, just come back, say you're going to think about it, blah, blah, blah. No bother. So I says to him, listen, if you don't mind, I'm just going to go away and think about it. Thanks very much. And he says, I thought you'd say that. Beat it. Phone me tomorrow. And that was him. So thankfully enough, I went away and thought about it, and phoned him the next day, and went back up and signed.
Brilliant. And he is responsible for the nickname, is that right?
He was. I I'll not tell you what he called me, but the word banjo was in it, and it stuck with the rest of the boys. And not just at Thistle, it actually stuck the whole way through my career.
It's a good nickname.
Oh, I could have been worse.
It could have been much worse. I'm sure you were called much worse. But I think Jerry Britton gave me your number to set this up. Well, he'll come back into the conversation, no doubt. But I mean, he said that team bus away trips, the guitar was on, and
they were good times, especially after a victory. We actually a great overnight in Edinburgh. No, I think because we were doing well, and this is one of the things about Partick, they treat players superbly, and players were doing well. And the lead up to the New Year, it was in between Christmas and the New Year, they took us all, partners included, to a hotel in Edinburgh, and I took my guitar, and I can remember my fingers were bleeding by the end of this marathon 4-hour gig. Struggled to speak the next day, but it was magic times.
You were the entertainment, and nothing you could do about it. Brilliant. Right, let's go back to that season, because it's just an absolutely sensational season. Where to start? First Thistle goal was an obvious one, because to this day it's still celebrated. You talk us through it, what you remember of it.
I remember it vividly. I was in the front post for a corner, and there was I don't know how this came about, but we signed a big French goalie, Klein. Can you remember him?
David Klein, yeah.
David Klein, that was him. We used to call him Calvin. Anyway, big David came out, and unlike him, I need to be honest, he plucked it through the air, and I just took off for the front post. He rolled it to Jerry Britton, who done a couple of shimmies. He actually, one of the really unfortunate things about that goal, and I was reminded about this years later, the Clyde player Andy McClay, he actually done his cruciate in the build up to that goal, as Jerry went past him, and then he kind of rolled me wide. I cut inside Andy Millen and then bent it round Bud, Kevin Budinakis, into the faraway corner. It was a special time. It's actually probably the goal that I'm asked most about, but it's my other goal for Thistle was better, against Falkirk later on. But that Clyde goal was magic.
It's brilliant when you can listen to someone describe a goal and you don't actually need to watch it to imagine it in your head. And I can see that goal happening in front of my eyes. Some left foot finish.
Surprising.
Do you remember who scored the other two goals that day? 3-0 win over Clyde.
Jerry Britton scored the two of them. Jerry Britton.
Two goals and assist, and it never gets talked about because of your goal.
No, and it shouldn't. His first goal was a through ball from wee Flea Fleming, and kind of rounded the goalie and put it in for an acute angle. And the second goal was a kind of striker's instinct. It was a shot in the box, and it came back to him. He put it in. That was a great game.
That was, I guess, part of the early season momentum, when, having come up the previous year, we got a feeling that we had a right good chance. And
well, it's surprising you say that, because we started getting, nobody had mentioned us winning the league kind of pre-season. None of the boys had talked about it. None of the boys had mentioned it. And I don't think we'd set our goal, our aim wasn't just to survive in the league, not by any stretch of the imagination, but we hadn't talked about it. And it was round about then when, in fact, it was Jerry Britton. I was in a conversation with him, and I says, "Do you think we can win the league?" And he just says, "Well, why no?" And it was round about then, and I thought, why no? Because we'd played everybody. The kind of main teams were Ayr United, who were they had a lot of Premier League players, they had a lot of money, and we'd beat them. We went down there and beat them 2-0, I think.
Yeah.
And it was round about then that the whole thing just started to gather momentum, as you said.
Going back to the start of the season, I guess when the expectation level at that point and playing St Mirren in the opening day was a bit of a measure because we all thought St Mirren were going to be up there. I think you came on as a sub that day, was your first appearance, and it was a brilliant match, 3 each in the sun. We just thought, I think the feeling was we'll walk away, we'll hold our own in this league, and that obviously just started, escalating a bit.
Definitely, the St Mirren game was a big one because, and it's funny, it's a 36 game season, and all through that pre-season, your only focus is in that first game, and it kept you going. And the fact that they'd come down from the Premier League, by the way, with a lot of fanfare. Their manager at the time, Tom Henry, he was he liked his chances. He fancied his chances of getting straight back up, and the fact that it was Flag Day, we were unfurling the flag. There was going to be a big crowd at Firhill. That was the game that that whole pre-season, and then to play in it, it was excellent.
What certainly coming across that you've got a pretty good memory of these games and goals. Not every player does, but it's really refreshing to hear someone who can pick out not just his own goals but others as well. Is that just because that season meant so much to you, or
they were my sober days? I didn't drink then. No, I think I can look back in a lot of games and recall kind of details within the matches as well. Even the bad games. In fact, the Clyde game, I can remember the Clyde game. I always like to start positively. I like to get the ball and just do something that was positive, either a pass to somebody's feet or just knock it by somebody and let's have a run. Let's see who's going to run. If you can beat me, fair enough, but you're not going to knock out with a shy. So in that Clyde game, Daniel Lennon get the ball in the midfield. We kind of bobbled about, to a touch, out his feet, and he passed it wide to me, and I'm playing right in front of the stand, the Jackie Husband stand, and the ball bobbled right over my foot. And nobody anywhere near me. And that way I thought to myself, oh, this is surely no the day. It can't be one of those days. So thankfully it wasn't, and it got better after that.
Not half. And I did watch the video before I came on here, and Danny Lennon was all over you when you scored that goal. I think he stopped you running away. He
did.
The captain, fantastic. But another statistic, just looking at that season, you made the number 2 jersey your own early on, 16 appearances on the trot, and you'll tell me that I guess if you get that continuity in regular football, that's clearly going to help you, just consistency of performance.
Definitely. I think at the start of the season there was a guy vying for the position as well, a guy called Richard Huxworth. Can you remember him?
Yeah. Richard Huxworth.
He came from Alloa, and he was actually a lot more experienced than me, and he was great with me, and really kind of spoke to me in depth about the tactical side of the game and where to be and stuff like that. And because as a young lad, I was probably a wee bit naive and a wee bit too attack minded a lot of the times for certainly the manager's liking. And he spoke to me and told me just be cautious, don't go all the time. And so he was great with me. And there was a game against Wraith Rovers in the Cup, and he seemed to the manager liked to kind of spell it between. He would give other players games in the cups, and he seemed to play the cup games. We were through there in Wraith at Kirkcaldy one night, and I think it was 2 each, and we ended up, I had to come on, and we ended up winning 4 or 5-2. What was the score?
5-3.
5-3. I came on and I played really, really well. And after that match, that was when I knew this is my jersey now to lose.
Aye. Richard wore number 2 in the opening league game, and he got some cup football, but from game 2 in the league, it was yours. And part of that, those 16 appearances in the trot, was that drubbing of Falkirk just as we were really clicking into gear. So you can talk us through this goal.
Well, probably a better goal, maybe not as memorable as the one against Clyde, but a better goal. And get the ball wide right, played a pass down to wee Paul Walker. Continued my run. It was like, and he just cut it back to me, and I hit it with my left foot first time. Had to open my body up first time and put it into the far away corner as well. And it's probably a better goal when you look at the aesthetics here. More difficult to score. It could have went anywhere. By the way, so could the Clyde one. Let's be honest, so could the Clyde one. But that was a lot more challenging. But aye, that was a cracker. I enjoyed that one.
That. I mean, two really, in the end, comfortable victories, and that Falkirk day was a brilliant game. I remember the own goal as much as anything as well. But
shocker. Did Craggle get sent off that day, didn't he?
Who did? Sorry,
Craggle. Did Craigan get sent off? Steve Craigan.
Testing me now. You could be right.
I think he gets sent off in the first half.
I was at both these games, but unlike you, I was enjoying myself those days, so I don't remember every detail. But that was a brilliant day. You mentioned someone there, Paul Walker, and relationships on a pitch with those you're playing closer to are clearly very important. How much did you enjoy playing behind him?
Great wee guy, absolutely great. He's probably the one player for the team that I keep in contact with the most. In fact, he phoned me last week, and we can chat fairly regularly. But you wouldn't like to mark him in training because he was good, and when he was on song, he was really on song, and he could cause teams lots of problems. Low centre of gravity, tricky, fast as well. So he was great. He's a crank wee player.
I guess that gave us, like a lot of the players we had, gave us different options on how we could set up, because we could go with a 5, we could go with a 4 and 2 wingers, we could do all sorts, and with players like that in the pitch, you've got a chance of causing some real trouble, which is why we scored so many goals. Away from the league, another feature of the season was clearly the cup run. When I put it in the one of the group chats today that I was going to be speaking to you, and one of the guys went, apart from the Clyde goal, he said, I really remember him when we played Dundee away in that cup replay, one of the games of his life that night.
It was it was funny, the first game, the manager, the gaffer, played Jamie Dolan at right wing back, and he subbed him he put me on after about 20-25 minutes, and I think he played Dozo there just for his kind of defensive prowess and his strength, but he didn't really offer anything going forward. And so I came on after 25 minutes and managed to kind of take part in the game a lot more, and influence it going the other way. And when we went up there, a lot of people say, you only get one chance against a big team, against a team and sometimes you buy into that. But when we went up there, we didn't have any fear, and that was a Dundee team that was managed by the Italian. What was his name? Bonetti,
yeah.
And they had a lot of excellent players that were playing for them. So we were, as much as we were disappointed with our 2-2 draw at home, we still gave ourselves a chance. I don't think many people did, but we still gave ourselves a chance going up there midweek to beat them. And thankfully, Big Jerry with a goal of the decade, goal of the season, a left foot volley. Again, that could have ended up anywhere, and you can tell him I said that. In fact, thankfully, it went right into the corner. So, that was great.
The left foot thing's a real feature, was that? You'd obviously played left wing back as well, right wing back, but you weren't afraid to have a swing at it.
And I think you're using the correct phrase, swing at it. I think when you get into certain positions, it's a lot easier. I wouldn't fancy myself taking the ball at my feet and lashing it with my left foot from 20-25 yards powerfully. I could maybe bend it, but I wouldn't strike it too well.
It's just part of the game as a fullback. If you're cutting inside, then that just becomes one of the options, doesn't it? So
definitely more part of the game nowadays than it was back then. Gaffer used to just shout at me, byline, get the byline.
Aye. And it worked because, brilliant season. First half, loads of football. Second half of the season, fair to say, in and out the team a wee bit more. But two end of season iconic games, and you started. We'll start on the 13th of April at Love Street, which, you know, you start smiling before you even talk about it. What was, talk us through an experience like that as a player, you know, from waking up in the morning, what does it feel like, and then the game itself and after?
The game's just a game. So in terms of the kind of preparation, I mean, the good thing was there was obviously stuff going on in the background that we had no idea about. I.e., one of the daft things was see the t-shirts that we wore after we won. So we didn't know that any of that was coming with us. We don't know any of that, and probably thank goodness we didn't know any of that was coming with us. We didn't know we were going back to Firhill after it for a jamboree. So the kind of prep for the game was pretty stoic. It wasn't this is it, League One day. Nothing like that. It was kind of par for the course. Although when we got there and when we came out and the stand was full, right away you thought, right, here we go. And that kind of gave everybody a lift. The game kind of took care of itself. We Flea scored a great goal just before half time, and then Marco McCulloch scored a header in the second half. And after that, we knew as soon as the second goal went in, we knew, and we were just playing out time, and that's when the fun really started. And people say to me about, particularly all the kind of more experienced players, enjoy this. Even though I was young, I did enjoy it, but you always think, don't worry, there'll be more. And unfortunately, that was the only thing I ever managed to, the only silverware I ever won in my career, which was disappointing. And that's maybe why it holds so many kind of vivid and special memories for me.
Yeah. Where have you? I take it you've got the medal. Where is your medal?
The medal's actually in my mum's house, along with all of my other footballing memorabilia. Would you believe? I don't think. Maybe my oldest boy's 7, so he's not really aware. But I look forward to the day that I can take him and show him everything.
Aye, that's special. That's special. And when we get back to letting people into Firhill, his mascot age, put it that way, so he can follow in your footsteps. We'll get him booked in. Maybe not after what happened last time with the manager.
Aye, don't tell McCall that. No.
What that day, must be one of your best days in football then?
Oh, without a doubt. Even I can remember going back to the stadium afterwards, and then you were doing a lot of your family was allowed back, so people were allowed back, and then you were meeting everybody, and the team was there. Again, you're talking about my great memory. I have no idea why this happened, right? But I ended up out myself, in and out different Thistle pubs singing karaoke songs. I don't know. I think a lot of people get split up, and we ended up all over the place. But that's where I ended up. I ended up singing Common People, Pulp's Common,
right?
and all these different, down Maryhill Road, and then a few bars along Great Western Road as well.
Outstanding. You're probably safer doing that than staying out with the boys.
Oh, by the way, definitely safer. Definitely safer.
Right, Common People. That's one for a future Player of the Year dance or something. That's great. The good thing about celebrating when you win the league is you then get trophy day to come, so you get to do it all again and again. A recurring feature here. You were on the pitch. Thistle won. Jerry Britton scored. But again, must be a great day to look back to.
Again, as you say, it's the photographs are running about daft with the big hats and the flags and getting a chance to hold the cup. These are all special, and I appreciate that no every player gets to kind of, and I know it was only the first division, but no every player gets to kind of have days like that where they can really experience that success and that joy. And it was, it's definitely probably the best footballing day of my career. Probably. Aye.
What's it like in a day like that when people would think the pressure's off, we've won the league, but you've still got a football match to try and win?
That was the thing, right? And the pressure the pressure wasn't off that day because we were at home and we were getting the cup. We didn't want to go out with a damp squib. We wanted to win, and the game was rubbish. The game was rubbish, but we scraped a win, and that's all we wanted to do. I think the following week, can you remember who we played the following week?
Was that Inverness away?
Well done. You remember he's not bad. Inverness away the following week. I don't think many people were bothered about that.
No, that's true.
Even the manager. I mean, we were 3-0 down after 20 odd minutes. But for the Wraith Rovers, we definitely had to win that one because we couldn't. I'm not saying we would have felt false celebrating it, but it would have been a funny feeling.
Aye. I guess you've got family and friends maybe there that wouldn't have been there every week necessarily. Definitely,
they were all there. In fact, I had a team there, and they get their photographs with the cup and everything else. So it was, again, memories for them that they can look back on.
Yeah. And did you have to get the guitar back out that night, or did you get a night off?
No, that night. I didn't get the guitar that night. I think, I'll tell you where we ended up. We ended up in, what's the fancy nightclub in the city centre?
Fancy nightclub?
Aye.
I'm trying to think what fancy nightclub would have been in those days. Corinthian?
It's in the Merchant City.
The Corinthian one?
That's the one. We ended up in the Corinthian, and we were there. Jerry Britton, you'll confirm this. You remember the guy who played with Rangers, Michael Ball?
Yeah.
He was buying his bottles at Bollinger. Now, at the time I was drinking either Iron Brew or Fresh Orange and Lemonade, so I had no idea what Bollinger was, and I had no idea how much it cost in a nightclub. But the guy was sending us over. I mean, we'd tables and stuff like that, and we were all carrying on and having a laugh and a joke. And he was sending over bottles of Bollinger pretty much all night.
Wow.
So that's where we ended up that night.
It's remarkable. Didn't expect that. I wonder if it was an apology for the Scottish Cup semi-final. We've not really touched on that. I know you didn't start that day, but I was just another great occasion of a great season.
Magic. I mean, again, you tell people you've played in a Scottish Cup semi-final, it's like, my goodness. And it's you were there. It was a full house. Again, family, friends were in the Thistle end that day, and it just kind of showed you the magnitude of what Partick Thistle meant to a lot of people. And it's a special club, and it's a shame they've not been in a semi-final since then, have they?
No, it's a bit of it's probably the one thing missing from a modern Thistle supporter CV is the cup success. So fingers crossed we can get some of that soon, because it's been dished out at other clubs.
Definitely, God willing. And I think that day in particular, I mean, before that, when we beat Inverness, up in Inverness, we'd already known who the other semi-finalists were. It was Rangers, Celtic and Ayr United. And we were all desperate for Ayr United. Yeah. But unfortunately...
I'd almost forgotten about that, how close we were to...
I know, it's incredible. But we held our own that day. Kind of got off to a bad start, didn't really recover. And after that, the game, it didn't run away from us, but it petered out, certainly. And that was the beginning. The start of the game was the unfortunate part.
Yeah, definitely. But fabulous to see a huge Thistle support that day and throughout the season. And just, I've spoken to a few of your teammates from the time about that season. It's nothing but good memories. So I guess one thing, talking about winning leagues and getting trophies, but the other prize for you was you becoming a Premier League footballer, which must have been a big deal.
Aye, brilliant. I mean, not just myself, but the rest of the boys. 2 years previously, we'd been playing in the second division.
Yeah. So
we went second division, first division, Premier League, and it was a big deal. Still a big deal. It was an excellent, and the whole thing was an excellent experience. Just going to these grounds and taking part, and it stood me in good stead for the rest of the career.
Yeah, season 02-03, stiff competition in the squad, Premier League squad. Tough to get starts. You played a number of games. Anything you look back on and think, I wish I'd done that differently, or were you satisfied that you gave your all and that it was just time to move on?
No, I played the first 2 games against Dundee United and Motherwell.
That's right.
and surprisingly we drew both games, so we were unbeaten. And the manager had signed David Lilley, and he'd signed David Lilley to play. And he kind of put it to me. He says, "Look, this season's going to be difficult because a lot of your strengths are going forward, and there is as an attacking player, and we might not get an opportunity to do that as much." That's the one thing that I didn't like. I'd still like the opportunity to show him that I could defend as well. Yeah. But he brought in David Lilley, and it was still a great experience, even the time that I got on the pitch, and the stadiums that I did play in. That season we got to we were nearly at another semi-final. We drew with Celtic in the League Cup.
I was there, yeah.
By the way, have you spoke to any of the other boys about this?
Maybe not in the way you're about to speak to me, but
right. Okay, so here's the deal, right? I'm taking the sixth penalty, right? So it goes to sudden death, and the boys are like, "Right, you're up." I say, "Right, okay." Celtic miss, and Hardy, big mad mental, decides to go down.
No,
puts it over the bar. The boys are like, "Right, you're next." Celtic miss again, and Craigs goes down to take the penalty. He misses, and then I think it was Momo Silla. Momo Silla scores, and they all turn around at me and go like, "Right, it's you now." And I'm like, "Oh, thanks very much." Now again, thankfully I scored, but it was unfortunate. The manager was going to have his heat. He was going, "No, what did you not take it for him?" Like he ran up. So it was just one of those things, I think. And
a devastating night.
That close away from another semi-final.
Aye, I think we had a third chance to win it. I think, didn't we? With was it Kenny Milne?
There were six.
We had 3 chances to win, but you obviously were.
Kenny Milne was the fifth one,
right? Aye, and then the 6 should have been you. 6
should have been me, and that
was just strolled up and hit it with your left peg.
Anything. No, I was nervous that night.
Aye, that was a sore one because we should have walked away with the prize that night. So
definitely.
But as you moved on. Dumbarton was your next stop. But what did you, when you left, and when you look back on it now, your abiding memories of that best part of a couple of years?
The success, and I know this is cliched. Maybe you'll hear this from a lot of kind of old players or ex-players, but one of the main thing you miss is the camaraderie. See the dressing room interactions, the banter, the jokes, the practical jokes, the slaggings that you take, that you dish out. That's all away. You don't really get that in a teacher staff room anymore, I'm afraid.
Yeah. We get a glimpse of that. Obviously, the famous documentary that shows Lambie barking at you all. You get a wee glimpse of what that must have been like to be in that environment. What was the dressing room with John Lambie and all those players? How do you sum that up?
By the way, it was excellent. And one of the really clever things about the gaffer was that he let players play, and that was, he didn't overcomplicate things. He let them play. He would give you a kind of motivational shout now and again, and it it didn't really matter who you were. He kind of, I can remember one game, he gave Danny Lennon pelters, and Danny, he wasn't due it. Somebody's having a bad game, they're going to get absolute dog's abuse off the gaffer, but he wasn't due it, and he just gave him it. And I don't know if it was for a reaction or for something else, but gave him pelters, and maybe it was because he was playing well that he gave him pelters, because to do that when you're not having a good game might work the opposite way. But it was a great dressing room, and the players all looked after each other, especially the older ones. Yeah. They all looked after everybody, and particularly me. I got a lot of help from a lot of them.
Yeah, I'm conscious of time here. We'll come to your best this 11 in a minute, but final question would be about your relationship with the supporters, because for me, you were a fan's favourite, and they really took to you straight away. And I guess that comes down to your work ethic, but the attacking instinct, which you've talked about a minute ago, unfairly been told about defending, but Thistle fans just embraced the way you played the game straight away.
I hope so. It was kind of, I liked getting at players. I liked taking players on and putting crosses into the box, and it was that was my game. That's what I was signed to do, and it won a lot of them over. And I had a great relationship with the Thistle fans. Even when I was having a bad game, they could be really harsh with a lot of players. But when I was having a bad game, they always they didn't really turn on me, and they always backed me up. And for that, I was thankful, because as young players do, they don't play well every single week, and it was great to see.
Aye, well, scoring a winner against Clyde in one of your first games isn't bad either. But I think all that stands true, and I'm sure fans will be really enjoying hearing from you today, which brings us to you trying to suss out your best Thistle 11, which I just landed on you a few hours ago. But
I've been wanting all afternoon, so
yeah, hit me with it.
Right, okay. I've got Kenny Arthur in goal.
No David Klein for that throwout.
No David Klein for the catch as well. To be fair, he came in club.
He was due one.
I've got Stephen Craigan. I've got a back three: Craigan, Patterson, and Derek White.
Strong.
Yeah, I'm in my team. I hope you don't mind that.
That's fine. It's your team.
I'm playing right wing back.
Yeah.
Archie is in the left wing back.
Good. Solid.
I've got a middle three of Fleming, Derek Fleming. He's the deepest one. I've then got Hardy, Big Mad Mental, just to the left of him. And just to the right, or just off the forwards, I've got wee Pee-wee Paul Walker.
Brilliant.
And then I've got Trigger, Scott McLean, and the King of Spain up front, Jerry Britton.
That's an outstanding team. I feel like I'm saying that every week, but that's a joy when you hear these teams. I'm going to pick out a couple of players for you just to talk about. I guess one would be Stephen Craigan. At that point was, he'd taken a step away from Motherwell, came to us, built up through the leagues, but he was. I'll hand over to you to describe him. It seemed to me just utterly consistent.
He's a model professional footballer, and I don't want to call him limited, because he was anything but limited as a footballer. But what he did do was he exercised every aspect of his life that he could to enable him to ultimately captain his country against Spain and beat Spain. It came through in his diet, his preparation. He hired a psychologist as well to help him, and he was just honestly maximised every single thing he could get from his body through his preparation and everything else. And a really nice guy as well, a great guy.
Yeah, we've spoken to him, and absolutely fabulous. And everything you say there rings true. We'll move up the pitch, talk about the impact of Martin Hardy. Knowing you had a Martin Hardy either in your team or sometimes coming off the bench was priceless that season.
The amount of goals he scored from the bench, I can remember his 2 goals up in Inverness just prior to Christmas, start of December. Yeah. We were getting beat 1-0. He came off the bench, scored 2, 1 in the last minute. The Thistle fans behind the goal went mental. It was magic. He's in there, a threat in both boxes, with obviously his aerial prowess. But Big Martin was a good footballer as well. He wasn't just somebody that headed it. He could pass it, he could play, and he made excellent runs into the box that were difficult to pick up, and that's how he scored so many goals.
Yeah. And he dovetailed in terms of goals and output with the man in front of him, Scott McLean, who, it's an embarrassment of riches to think of some of the firepower we had that season, but he was, you wouldn't have fancied playing against him?
No, definitely not. Big trigger. Big Trigger was a great guy. I actually roomed with Trigger at the start, and him and I, after midweek games, it was often kind of difficult to sleep, I found, and he used to pick me up on the way through the Gorbals to go over to Firhill, so he would drop me off, and we just started to go to the casino for a couple of hours just to relax after a midweek match. So I was really close with Trigger, and he was a really genuine guy. Have you got time for a funny Trigger story?
Go on, absolutely.
So see that match Big Mad Mental scored the 2 goals in?
Yeah.
So we always used to go up to Nairn the night before. We played Inverness or Ross County. We'd stay in Nairn. So we got up to Nairn, and invariably the gaffer just went, right, you lot, beat it, go for a walk. 6:30 at night, freezing cold, lashing the rain, December, and he's telling us to go out for a walk till 7:30. So out we went, and we came across the river. We're down by the river, and Trigger says, how much will you give me if I go swimming in the river? And to be honest, I'm at the back of the group here thinking, please don't do this. And Danny Lennon was like, right, I'll get everybody to give a fiver. I've got everybody to give a fiver. So he's maybe getting 80 quid, 90 quid max off everybody, all the boys to go for a fiver. So down he goes, down to his boxer shorts. He's up to his waist. Is that me? Is that me? Danny Lennon shouting, no, you need to go under. So under he went, is that me now? Freezing. He said, no, you need to go and swim. So it was the quickest three breaststrokes you've ever seen before Trigger ran out, absolutely dripping, freezing cold, but 80 quid richer. and that, by the way, that story just summed Trigger up. Daft as a brush, but a genuinely lovely guy.
Amazing. Absolutely brilliant. Maybe we could have done with that the night before we played the last game of the season, just to level ourselves out.
Well, there's a story there, but that's a story for another day.
Right, okay. We'll leave it there. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I know I've gone way over time, but it's just been utter joy to talk about that season again, get your perspective. Brilliant memory of some of the games and goals, and a cracking best 11. That team would take some stopping. So on behalf of everyone, all the Thistle fans who have watched this, thank you so much. And as I say to all the ex-players, when we get back to getting fans in at the game, love to see you back at Firhill, and maybe even make you mascot, actually.
Well, I'm not saying anything there. Give him my record. I'll not say a thing.
Banjo, thank you ever so much.
Thanks very much. The pleasure was mine. Take care.